Good afternoon. We don't want to delay more. We just enter the lecture that I prepared. We go a little bit through what we learned last night. The question is, do we understand ourselves? Do we understand when the body speaks to us in disease, what he tells us? And if we don't understand it, then we cannot do anything about it. Do we understand it? We can say, okay, my body communicates this, and I will take care of his needs. Because the body always will speak when he needs something. So when we are hungry, we know what the body needs. When we are thirsty, we also know what the body needs. When we are tired, we know what the body needs. When we do not have enough oxygen, we know what he needs. When we are freezing, we know what he needs. And when we are sweating, we also know what he communicates and what he needs. But when it comes to disease, what is the body telling us? What is that thing that is not fitting him? And like I shared last night, who knows it still? I know it's very simple, but it's hard to understand that it's love that is needed then when we are having these issues in our body. And since we have not learned anything about love, the question of love is there, but in all my 22 years of my practice, I couldn't find any other cause except the lack of love. And since we learned that love is the fuel of life, and we do not live just by oxygen, by food, by water, by sleep, by warmth, and by sunshine, but we live by our relationships, and relationships have the cause because of the need of love. Love is not something you can put in a bottle and drink. Love is not something you can make physical. Love is just in the way we think towards our relationships. That's why relationships are the main issue in humans' life, and I never saw any issue that is not coming from our relationships. So love is the fuel of life, and so it's justified that disease is just bringing up that this fuel of life is missing and needs to be, stilled, or the needs need to be satisfied to the body. But since we have not learned that, I had to learn it in my practice the hard way, because I came from normal medical school, and in normal medical school you never learn that disease is a result of a lack of love, or do you? They don't even have the term love. They will say emotions or something, but love is not in our minds. It's neither in the religious world nor in the medical world. Love is not something that is, in our attention. Yes, we have a hard time to define it, but it's not there at all. So, since it is the middle of life, I could not tell it otherwise than it's the fuel of life. And our body reclaims that fuel is missing. So, how does it work? So, since relationships are just in our thoughts, and thoughts are always a transport of information, and that transport of information needs to have a place where it takes place, and it also needs to have a beginning. That is, I was very curious to know, where do our thoughts starting? Because if life is in the thoughts, then or in the information we have in the thought, then it must have a starting point. Or are things that have no starting point? Do things have a starting point or not? Yes. So since everything must have a starting point, the way we think must also have a starting point. And then, of course, what are the power of the thought? And since everything is the result of what we think, the thoughts are the most highest power that exists. What is their role in health? It's the major role, because we can make ourselves sick in two ways through our thinking: through a direct thought, as we will see when we look to the subconscious, or to an indirect thought by which we go and drink or do something else. But it's still always what we think that we do. So we need to know the human being in order to understand the function of the thoughts. Last night we made this last slide, that what we generally don't know is the fundamental law of all things. This is somehow ignored, even though we all know the law somehow of cause and effect. And then, of course, if we don't know the fundamental law of nature, we also don't understand the fundamental law of relationship, because the 10 Commandments, the 2 tables, are just dealing with relationships. Then we need to know the human nature. One of the greatest confusion is about the human nature. There is no clarity. How are we built together? How is it put together, and how does it work? What are the needs of human nature? I came to see this in my practice, that you don't learn human nature in medical school, and you don't even learn it in the spiritual school, in religion, because there is on what can you orient in order to find out how human nature is. But without knowing the human nature, it's like I make this comparison. Would you ever bring your car to a car mechanic who does not know the car? Yes or no? No, but you go to the doctor. Yeah? So this is the same thing. We go to the doctor, he has no idea, but he has a prescription, he has maybe an idea about a diagnosis. He may even do some surgeries to get out what you need, what is there. But how the nature itself works is just not there. That's a terrible unknowledge. We know all kind of things about ourselves, and our nature we don't know. And what is then it's most even important, or what belongs to human nature, is to understand where does the fuel of life come in, or what is love, and how does we work with it. So there must be a place where love comes in, and that place is the starting point of man's function. Because we know, like I said last night, where to put the water, where to put the food, where to put the clothes, but where do we put love? How does that work? Is it a conscious process or an unconscious process? All those things, I hope we will fit together in the seminar. So this is the way that God helped me to understand things, and in this way I also explain it. So we put the foundation by understanding the law. Everything in this universe has the same way of functioning, and that it functions as a channel. So a channel is, by definition, needs to have an entrance and an exit. Yeah? So not everything is a channel like a pipe, but everything works as a channel, because there is no way to function if something has not an entrance and an exit. And this is why all things must function by a singular law, that goes through and is valid for every channel. Not any channel is the same, but every channel needs to function by this law. And the first part of the law is the channel has no way to produce its own needs. It must be admitted to him, and that is because nothing can exist or function by itself. So the channel must first assimilate the power in order then to give it on, because nothing can do anything for itself. So as simple as this law is, the more, how can I say, unknown it is. When we don't have so young children, then I ask them sometimes, did you eat today? And then they say yes. And I say, for whom did you eat? And what do they answer? For themselves. So is that possible? Can you eat for yourself, or can you not eat for yourself? And that's a simple question. And according to the law, what does the law say? Can you or can you not? No, there's nothing that can do anything for itself. We look to our body, our stomach keeps how much of the food for himself? If he would keep a little bit, we would finally die, because the channel would get blocked. How much oxygen does the lung keep for itself when we breathe? How much oxygen? Nothing, because it's impossible, but the lung needs oxygen. So where does it get the oxygen from? From the blood. Yes, so the blood brings the oxygen back to the lung, because how much oxygen does the blood keep for himself? The hemoglobin, how much? Nothing. So you see, the whole function of everything, if it's a computer, if it's anything, is only guaranteed if every channel in that system is working properly. If one channel is not working properly, we speak about disease. Disease is nothing else than a blocked channel. A channel that does not give anymore that what the other channel needs in order to work with. So if our stomach, we get an occlusion of our intestine, how much of us will die if there is not done something urgently? The whole body, the whole human will die, because that channel needs to be always open and provide the nutrients for all the other channels. So, understanding that the universe can only work as every channel is making his own work by what it was done, then we understand that there must be a source for all those channels, and by law we know then that God must exist, because the channels needs to be fed. There must be a source where the channel are sustained and get their power. So that's why I always paint God as a circle, because the Bible describes him as a circle. He says, I am the beginning and the end. What is that? That is a circle. And the Apostle Paul makes it even more clear. He says, all things come from him, through him, and to him. So that's a more described circle. So God must exist by law, because if God does not exist, the channels have no power from where to function. Because there must be a power where the first channel gets its power, and then it is given further and further and further. So the law is very simple. If we have, and I give this example again with the domino stones, Yes, you know those pieces of domino, and you put them in a certain distance. How many dominoes can you push down by one move? All of them, if you push the first, yes? Because every channel takes and gives by no choice. Yeah, so you put the power in, and how much power is lost on the way? No power is lost. Power never goes away, because it's just taken and given, and if the line of the dominoes were infinite, they would go infinite. Because power is not changed, it just takes and gives. So, understanding a little bit this basic things of how things work, we need to know disease is nothing else than a blocked channel. And that's why we need to know who blocks the channel. So everything works in a circuit. There is the circuits are linear. Our thoughts, our thinking process is a linear process. It's very fast. That's why we can, when we build one thought, we can already build the next one. While even not finishing the other idea, I can think on the next idea. So that's a very fast way of function. So if that is very clear to know, the first conclusion that I took away from the law is as simple as it can be. According to the law of cause and effect, that one is the cause, the other is the effect. The thing is very clear: where the effect is, the cause cannot be. There are only two things that are separate, and then cause and effect. If someone does not, separate cause and effect, he will never be able to, discern things correctly. Because where the effect is, the cause cannot be. So here we have the car that is painted or scratched. Would you ever think or get out of your car or get out of the house and you see the car is painted or scratched? Would you ever beat the car and say, "Oh, stupid car, why did you do this to yourself?" Would you do that? No, why not? Because the car cannot do it to itself. No matter how long it is there, no matter what it is, the car can only be injured from outside. Because where the cause is, or where the effect is, the cause cannot be. Now we have the injured nose, and the question is, can the nose injure itself? Can the breast make its own cancer? Yes or no? No. So, by the law, you know that disease must come from outside the body. Yeah? The body must be injured, must be done something so that disease should appear. So, it's very simple then. If that's the truth, then we need to search for the cause of the disease outside of the body. Are you with me with that? Yes? So, how many options do we have that the body can be injured? So, if this is the body, as the channel, according to the law, it cannot injure himself. It can only be injured from outside. And now we need to see what can injure the body. Now, we know that it's set for certain, for a certain needs. The channel cannot function without the needs being administrated to him when he is taking them. So we can injure him with the inhaling of the wrong gas, because we need to live by oxygen. So if we inhale monoxide of carbon monoxide, we will live or die. We will die because the carbon monoxide is not good for our body. Yeah? But carbon monoxide binds 400 times stronger to the hemoglobin than oxygen. So if you have them together, what will your hemoglobin take in? It will take in carbon monoxide. That's why carbon monoxide is so dangerous, because you cannot smell it, yes, but you can measure it. When people die on carbon monoxide, we can measure it. So we have detecting things when you have a heating system with gas. Where do you put the measure for the carbon monoxide? On the top or on the ground? Where do you put it? Oh, you put on the top when it burns something, because the smoke goes up. But what happens with carbon monoxide? It goes down. So you need to put it somewhere down, because there is the concentration, because it falls down, it's heavier than the other gases. So that's why it's good to know, okay, when it starts beeping, then it's good to open the window so that you lower that thing. So we can die on inhaling of a wrong gas. It must not be only carbon monoxide. Then we can also take the wrong liquid and the wrong food. Yes? And when we take the wrong food, then we know the body gets injured by that. Then, of course, the body is exposed to the wrong temperature. Yeah, you see, we have a set temperature for our body, and when that is not kept, then the body will make its signals by freezing or sweating, and so we can injure him, we can burn him, we can freeze him, and then it's gone, because the channels needs to work at a certain temperature. Yeah? Then, of course, you can have the wrong pressure. We know that oxygen needs a certain pressure for us, or we need a certain pressure in order to breathe oxygen. And when the pressure is high up, about 3,300, then you feel it, even though there might be oxygen, but you cannot take that normally in. So there's a pressure, there's radiation. So in all these cases where you have a injury of the body, a blocked channel, you can go backwards and say, okay, it was burned, it was frozen, it was beaten, or it was scratched, it got the wrong gas. You must find exactly the pathway how things happen. And you can do that, and you can trace it back to those poisons. But there's also something that hurt the body, and that is the wrong thought. If a wrong thought or a thought can damage the body, then how can we trace it back if it's the thought? And since the thought is not taken in account for making the body sick, we usually do not take the thought as being there. You go to the doctor with infected ear, or with, I don't know, a knee that is hurt for a year or two, and what will the doctor ask you? Will he ask you about what you thought about to injure your knee? No, because he will say, this is arthrosis or arthritis or whatever he says to you, but he will never think at the furthest that this is the wrong thought that makes the arthrosis or breaks your meniscus. because the meniscus is lesioned without any accident. You find it in many knees, in many places. And who makes it? Who does it? Who makes the bleeding of the nose? How can the nose bleed? And of course, you can injure yourself with a punch, you get an accident, or you scratch your nose with a nail, then you cut their vessel. But if you raise up and suddenly the nose is running. Just recently I had a 29-year-old patient. She came because her nose were bleeding on the left side of her part, and she said she had since her childhood always nose bleeding, and she was many times cauterized in the nose because of the bleeding. And of course, when I looked into that nose, that septum didn't look very good because of the interventions that were made there. But why was she bleeding out of the nose? Why was it bleeding out of the left nose all the time? And who makes that bleeding if it's no injury? Who makes the damage of the vessel so that the channel breaks and then it gets out the bleeding? Who does it? It can be only her own thought. Yes? It can only be her own thought. And it comes specifically why it's on the left side and on the right side. And of course, the thoughts always must have what? A cause why they think like they think. There must be an event in a relationship that brings that result. Because we live from relationships. So her story was very simple. She was raised from a mother who is depressed and has mental issues. Mother tried several times to kill herself, and just 2 days ago she tried again to kill herself. And the child, of course, even she's 29, living with her mother, when she experienced that, 2 days later, the nose is bleeding. A very clear cause and effect relationship. But how many of you would accept that? How many of you, if you're sincere with yourself, would you just say, "Oh, yes, doctor, that's so"? Would you just be excited? No, because we are not used to it. We are not used to it. It's like I'm from another world when I say your own thoughts make your nose to bleed. Or makes a hole in your nose, in your septum. A lot of people have a hole in the septum. Who ate up that septum so that the hole gets in. The medicine says, oh, it's an autoimmune disease like morbus M or S or whatever they call it. But how does it come to existence? How does it work that it is there? So, understanding that the channel cannot do itself harm, we need to explore the possibilities. What can harm it? What can harm it? The other day there was a patient. She has dizziness. She's dizzy, and the doctor gave her diagnosis, and so she'd need to come to the ENT specialist and to the neurologist and to the internal medicine, so that you see, does it come from the heart, does it come from the vestibular organ, or does it come from the nervous system at all? So, and then I asked the patient, that dizziness did not happen with an injury, did not happen with anything else. Who comes to your vestibular organ? Who can injure it? Because it's in the bone. How many options do we have? Gas, liquid, and it's always one-sided. Who can injure it? There's nothing that comes into your nervous system except your thoughts. Only he can do that damage, that you get your dizziness. But when you think, okay, how does it work? Well, it's inside. It's in the bone. Our vestibular organ is in the bone. So, yes, you can have an accident and then you break the bone, and then, of course, you can break the vestibular organ, then it's the liquid flows out, and then you're very dizzy, and but then the other side will help you to recover. But when you have a failure of one of the vestibular organs, then you need to know there is no other option than your own thought. There's no other option. But that's hard for most of the people to realize, because the thought has not been given an attention in medicine. But I say to my patient, I say, what could enter in your bone? What could enter in your head except your own way of thinking? There's nothing else there. The tinnitus is just like I said, I shared you before last night, just in the cortex. You cut the nerve, you cut everything, but who gets to your cortex? Yeah, it's only your thought. Now, of course, if you're poisoned, then you have a general issue that you're poisoned, but this is a little piece in your cortex, a little area where you have this chemistry that you perceive as a noise. So who can make the change of that chemistry? Who can produce it? So there is no other way as the thought. So the thought is not given any attention, but all these things, even the food fungus, is from the way you think, even though it's hard for you to think about that. But there is an interesting, why do you get the fungus only in one of the nails and not of all of them, or why do you get it all of them, or why you get it only one? It's the same thing with your tooth, you know. If your tooth is infected by sugar, why do you have one root infected and all others are right? Why is just the one that is caused? Is that the weaker part, or, you know, there's no structure to tell, okay, this can only come from there because nothing else can do it. So what you see here are things that even the caries here, you know, why does he have this tooth and the others are healthy? How does it work? Because if it's general, then if it's the sugar, then how many of the teeth should be affected? All of them. And why it is specific, just one tooth? Why it is just one side? Or why it is both sides? Why is it so? And if we just think those are random questions or are not important questions, then of course you might stay like you are. But latest, when someone is really sick and wants to solve his problem, he might put it to think, to say, okay, why do I have this and not? So, for the reason to understand the thought, we need to understand human nature. So, we need to know how we are built. There is structure, is something that cannot be ignored, because structure and function go together. You need a certain structure in order to provide a certain function. Yeah? So they are two distinct things, but they have, the one is leading to the other. And then you cannot have a structure and a function without needs that put that function into work. Yes? And that's why that is so important to realize what puts the human nature into function. And we said last night that we still have to prove it, that love comes first and then comes chemistry. We need both, but there is one that puts all things into work, and others are just sustaining that function. And that is real science, because that is something that no one can change. Structure is made by whom? Yes, by the Creator. Function is made by whom? By the Creator. Who did the needs to be there settled? It's the Creator. So those things we need to learn. We can ignore them. But if we do not know them, we may never know what is wrong with the human being. Because is there something wrong with the human being or is not? Yes? When he goes to war, when he builds up machines to kill, is there something wrong or not? Is it or not? Yes, it's the first man that whatever born by humans, Cain, was a murderer of his brother. Why? So there is something wrong with the human being, and we need to know what is wrong. There's something wrong when we get sick. We need to know what is wrong with that. So let's see what it is. So take the next presentation.